I don't intend to go to a deep core lesson, but maybe probably understand what we are going to do in this session. This actually is not something that I have made. I usually make presentations for lectures, but this introduction part, I thought I'll take from the course material itself, so it will be more on track, and you will follow this up better. Okay, so this you are in level 3 semester 3, level 2 semester 3, and your subject number is EN3106, communication skills 2, right? I'll just read out what this presentation contains, and then explain you what. Sometimes reading itself will make you understand, but if there's anything that you don't understand, I could just pass it through, right? So this is the first topic, the communication skills in the communication skills module. So this intends to introduce what is meant by communication skills. So I hope you both understand what communication skills are, but there are certain deep readings about communication skills, how the little things that we don't really think about is communicating make such a big impact on our day-to-day life, right? So what you should always keep in mind is that this lesson or this module is not just about facing your exam or having it just as because it is there in the curriculum, but look at it more like something that is given to you, a chance that is given to you to enhance your communication skills as a part of your life skills. Like it's something that everybody should possess, irrespective of their profession, job, or anything else that they do. They should be just possess communication skills as a basic soft skill, right? So this will mainly focus on the IT industry, because we are doing this in an IT degree. So I will be speaking of the different career paths that you have in the IT field, what really are the employability skills. Like employability skills are the skills that are required for you to be employed when you are done with the degree, right? So those things we'll be talking about in this module. One thing I forgot to do was that I told you that I will introduce myself before I pass on once you have done yours. I think I missed it out. So before I move on to the next slide, I'll tell you who I am and what I do. So I am Radha Kuvita Bandara. I'm not a Tamil, just because of my name. I'm not a Tamil, just in case you're wondering if I am. So I'm a lawyer by profession. I go to courts, take people to courts, technically. I sort of enjoy doing it. I have graduated from KDU, Kuthalawal Defense University, with my bachelor's, and then I have done law college. I think that's pretty much it. Like, I'm not a big deal, but yeah, I think that's me. So if you want to know what I'm doing right now, I'm practicing in Colombo. I like doing criminal law, but like sometimes we don't have a choice about what we like to do in law, because clients don't always, like, they don't really get to pick. Like the clients get to pick, but the lawyers don't get to pick the clients. So whatever you get, you do. That's how legal profession works. So yeah, currently I do public law cases on and off, but I am passionate about doing criminal law. Okay, so that's about me. It's just that. So yeah, moving on. So every module in this, like I hope that is there in all your other subjects as well, like the IT subjects. There are intended learning outcomes, the ILOs. Okay, so I will always be focusing on the learning outcomes which are intended by the module and preparing the lesson and conducting the lesson view, because the ultimate goal of a lesson or a module is to reach the intended learning outcomes. So at the end of this lesson, you will be able to define the term communication. You will know what communication is about, what communication is. Then you will know to express important communication skills for career development. Then you will be able to identify different career paths in the IT industry. Then you would always be able to argue on the importance of communication skills in IT industry. So it's like you will know what communication is, why it's important, and why is communication in skills important, specifically in IT industry, as long as you are trying to get into the IT industry. Okay, so under this topic, the main topic of communication skills introduction, I will introduce what communication skills 2 is about. I think you all have done communication skills 1, if I'm not mistaken, because that's how it should work. Overview of the IT industry. We'll be discussing the career paths and employability skills, then the importance of communication skills in IT industry. Okay, introduction. Developing strong communication skills are important for building a successful career. So irrespective, now this introduction about communication skills is general. It's like, it doesn't matter. Now at this point, we are not focusing on the IT industry, but we are looking at a broader picture of any career. Like it could be a lawyer, a teacher, a software engineer, an IT specialist, computer scientist, engineer, doctor, anybody, any career would require you to have strong communication skills. So that is at a general broader picture. Communication skills are also important for your personal life too. So this is what I was telling all this time. This lesson or this module or this entire part or the subject of communication skills should be looked at as more of a life lesson than something that comes tagged along with your IT degree, right? Successful communication will help us to better understand people and to be understood by others in different situations. So this is what I told you in the first place, that we should always respect and accept the other person's opinion. It's not that sometimes you could be a specialist in let's say IT industry in your case, and still there would be things that you may not know, right? Now, for instance, me being a lawyer, even though I am a lawyer, there could be certain things that I still don't know about law. There are certain parts of law. Now, if you take law as a subject, it's like the ocean. Like there are so many areas that you can't even think of touching sometimes. You know, now when you take law, it has property law, criminal law, delict, law of delict, space law, law of the sea, rent law, tax law, and whatnot. Okay, so like if you ask me about criminal law, I could be able to tell you something about it. But if you ask me about tax law, I wouldn't probably know much to tell you, because one thing is that I'm not interested about taxing. Plus, I don't think I would do good in commerce in general. So I am not interested in it. Plus, I don't know about it. So even if you are a specialist in a certain subject, in a particular subject, you could still have certain things that you don't know. So having that in mind and accepting the fact that there could be certain things that you still wouldn't know would better let you understand other people, because opinions and ideas come from different stages, different experiences, different areas of knowledge. So you always have to understand others' opinions and other situations, right? Better communication helps us to overcome diversities, avoid conflicts, build trust and respect, and create conditions for sharing creative ideas and solving problems. So these are like more like the last bullet contains some advantages of better communication. Like it can overcome diversities, um, avoid conflicts, build trust and respect, create conditions for sharing creative ideas, and could help us in solving problems. Okay. Right. Now, one of the key learning outcomes was to understand the meaning of communication, right? So when you say there's like a definition or something, there could always be more than one definition to something, right? That's why we have 3 definitions here. One, the weekly E defines communication as a root of the word. The root of the word communication in Latin is communicare, which means to share or to make common, right? Now, in Latin, communicare is the base or the root word for communication, right? So communicare means to share or to make common, to pass on, right? The act and process of creating and sharing ideas could also be called as communication. So technically, what we mean by communication is the act and the process of creating and sharing ideas. So if I tell you something about law today, that would be a communication of legal studies, technically, right? That is that. So communication is defined as the process of understanding and sharing meanings according to Pearson and Nelson defines it, right? Okay. Introduction to communication skills 2. Now we are still in the communication skill introduction lesson. There are 7 C's of communication, right? Which explains how you communicate more clearly and effectively. Now, communication can be just one word, one clap, one whistle, or one blow. It could be anything, communication. But whatever the mode of communication you are doing, whatever the way you are communicating, irrespective of that, there are 7 C's that you have to be precise about in communicating certain things, right? Let's see what the 7 C's are. First is that it has to be clear. If you say you would clap when something happens, let's say you tell your friend that you will clap when you what do you like when you are while you are eating, you tell your friend, okay, when I fill my tummy, I'll clap. So technically you are clapping to communicate the fact that you are full, right? So the clap has to be clear, right? You are not saying it out loud, you are not whistling, you are not telling a word, but you are clapping. So if you say that you would clap when you are full, your clap has to be clear. Okay? Clear. Clear is the first C. Then it has to be concise. I'm not going to go into the sub areas, because when I tell you the word of what the C stands for, you will understand what I am meaning. So clear, then concise. Stick to the point and keep it brief, right? Then it has to be concrete. What do you mean by concrete? When the message is concrete, the audience will get a clear message. It should not vary it, right? A solid message has to be given. The message has to be solid, right? There has to be certain details for the, now taking the least possible example, the clap. If you tell your friend you will clap once when you get full of your tummy, the clap has to sound like a clap, right? It has to be loud enough. It has to be heard. And it has to be heard by the person you intend it to be heard, right? So those are the like solid details of your clap technically, right? I'm taking a very, very simple example for you to understand, right?
Excuse me, Miss. Miss Tan,
Yeah.
can I have a question?
Yeah, sure. Shoot it.
Sign known as summarizing part will apply to consist of?
Not really, not really. Summarizing is something that you do to save time, and it's more like it's a part of communication. I would agree on that, but you cannot sometimes summarize everything, right? In here, when you say concise, it has to be brief and to the point. Like now let's say let's deviate from the idea of this clap thing, and let's take an example like this. Now I am communicating to you an information about the funeral of a mutual friend. Okay, a mutual friend has died, and I am going to tell you that X is our mutual friend. X has died. So when I call you to tell you the information or to communicate the information, I have to be brief and to the point, right? Like if I call you now and tell you, hi, I call you to tell about a funeral. It's a bad news, but I just have to tell you this: X has died. X has passed away due to her long-going illness. The funeral would happen at her own place. So let me know if you're going. That would be the precise, brief, concise, to the point communication that you would be doing, right? Apart from that, if you and I are good friends with X, we could be talking thereafter about how good the time we spent with X and all that. But when you take the particular part of the telephone call you make to tell the other person about this particular information about the funeral, that detail has to be to the point and brief. That's what it's meant by concise. Summarizing is something else. Summarizing could probably be done in a text. Like it's you could be summarizing. You could say that it's summarizing, but summarizing is not necessarily concise. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So our fourth C is correct. Your communication has to be error free. Now if I call you and tell me මාර වැඩේ X මැරිලා මේ එන බදාද තමයි මාළ ගෙදර තියෙන කියලා, that's not correct because එන බදාද වෙනකන් තියෙන විදිහක් නෑනේ මාළගේ. It can, but I'm just saying like the information has to be correct, right? දන්නේ නැතුව හරි, or if you are unsure about it, you better get it sorted before you communicate it, because once communicated, then මං X ගේ මරණය කියන්නේ ඔයාට කතා කරලා කියලා ඉවර වෙලා නම් මම ඔයාට දිනේ කියලා මං කියනවා ආයෙ සිකුරාදා තමයි තියෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒත් ඇත්තටම ආපහු කතා කරලා බලනකොට ඒ බදාද තියෙන්නේ. එතකොට දැන් මම ඔයාට පණිවිඩය කියලා ඉවරයි. එතකොට ඔයා තව 10 දෙනෙක්ට ඒ අතරේ පණිවිඩය කියලා තිබුණා. We would be error communicating. Yeah. So before you communicate, you have to make sure that your communication information is on point and correct. Right? Then the next C is coherent. Communication should be logical. All points should be connected and should be relevant to the main topic. දැන් මම මාළගේ ගැන කියන්න ගත්තහම call එකක් මම කියන ඒකත් එක්ක කියන information ටික ඒ topic එකට මම කියන්නේ කියන දැන් මම call එක ගන්න topic එක මොකක්ද ඔයාලට කියන්න හදන්නේ මාළගේ X ගේ මාළ ගෙදර X මැරිලා. එතකොට X මැරිලා කියන topic එකට අදාළ ටික තමයි ඒ connected relevant කැලේ ටික විතරයි මම මේ topic එකත් එක්ක කියන්න ඕනේ. That's what is meant by coherent. Okay, එතකොට X නැති වුණ බව කියලා ඒකත් එක්ක X ඒ කැලල අස්සෙම X එක trip ගියේ වයි X ගේ මේ X ලස්සන බල්ලෙක් හිටියා කියන එකයි ඒ වගේව කතා කරලා කරන්න ගියොත් we would not be doing a coherent communication, right? So it has to be logical and connected and relevant to the main topic. මලගයා ගැන කියනවා නම් ඒ මලගේ වෙන්නේ කොහෙද කවද්ද මොකක් වෙලාද කියන එක කිව්වහම අනිත් ටික ඔක්කොම you can meet at the funeral house and talk about it or talk about it later. The main topic has to be coherent, right? And the tone and flow of the message should be consistent. So එක කියන හැටි සහ කියන flow එක. ඒ කියන්නේ topic එක කියනවා නම් දැන් X ගේ මල ගෙදර. X ගේ මල ගෙදර කියලා ඉවරලා X ඒ මල ගෙදර වෙලා කිව්ව ගමන් ඊළඟට කියන්න ඕනේ ඒක කවදද කෙරෙන්නේ. කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ. කීයටද යන්නේ. වගේ ටිකක් තමයි flow එක අනුව ගත්තාම අපි කොතන ඉඳන් කොතනද කියන්නේ කියන එක තීරණය කරන්නේ. Okay? Next C is complete. The information you are trying to communicate has to be complete, right? Then courteous. Your information communication has to be courteous. You can't be arrogant or stubborn or mad at the other person and communicate. You always have to have take your time, be courteous, be pleasant, and be friendly, open, and honest in doing your communication. There should not be hidden insults or passive-aggressive tones. You should not be passing hints and insults and passive-aggressive tones. Those are not encouraged in communicating. Okay. I think we have done 1 hour already.
So Miss, courteous means well-mannered.
Pardon?
Courteous means, well-mannered, no?
That's right. Something like mannered. Like you have to be courteous. Like you should not be arrogant, aggressive, but be friendly. Like this comes in some other lesson. But අපි කියනවා call එකක් ගත්තාම මේ to smile and speak. It is true that through the phone that you would not see the other person smiling, but your voice tells the other person. It is sensed if you are smiling and speaking. Like, try doing it for someone. The what do you call it? The communication, the conversation is going to be very pleasant if you start the call with a smile. Like, even though the other person at the other end of the call is not going to understand, like, literally see that you are smiling, that the tone of your voice will drastically differ from just talking to someone else, like without a smile, right? So courteous has to be one of the main characteristics of good communication. Okay. So yeah. So what do you say? Like, we have done, or we have passed 1 hour already. Would you want me to continue, or would you tell others to come to the class next day so we can do a better field class? What do you say? Are you there?
Yes, miss.
Yeah. What do you say? Do you want me to continue the lesson, or are we going to do it the next week? What do you have next in the timetable?
Data structures and algorithms.
Okay. Who does the lessons? Like, is it, who's going to be the lecturer? Any clue? Who's going to be the lecturer? Chatra, are you there? We can actually go on to do the lesson if you really are interested in doing it today. Or it's totally up to you. Like, what do you say? Girls.
Then you can do it. No, miss.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Sir is here. Probably until he gets down.
But unmuted.
Is he unmuted?
I think.
Let me see. Okay. Let's just continue. Maybe he'll come and tell me, okay, now stop. Okay, let's just yeah, let's just do a couple of more slides. So I don't think we can do the entire lesson today, but at least up to a half of it, maybe. Yeah. Okay, now we know what the 7 C's of communication are. Let's just see what exactly are communication skills. Okay. By telling that you should have communication skills, what do they mean? Okay. Communication skills are abilities you see when giving and receiving different kinds of information. Communicating in a clear, effective, and efficient way is an extremely special and useful skill. So, no matter what you are, no matter what profession you are in, or what job you are doing, what sort of a job you are doing, or whether you are studying, or whatever it is, communicating in a clear, effective, and an efficient way is an essential skill. Okay. And communication skills involve listening, speaking, observing, and empathizing. Right? It's not about just speaking. Sometimes we think, okay, communicating is just speaking. No, that's not true. Communication skills involve listening, speaking, observing, and empathizing. Right? So it's a four-way skill. Like there are some skills that you have to have. You have to have the skill of listening, the speaking skills, observing skills, and empathizing skills to be a good communicator. Right? It is also helpful to understand the differences in how to communicate through face-to-face interactions, phone conversations, and digital communications like email and social media. So even though what it strikes our head when we say communication in the first place is to talk to someone, that is not the only way that we communicate. We communicate through phone. There could be digital communication, which we are doing right now. It's digital communication. And also digital communication modes such as social media and email. So all of these communication skills, communication ways, modes should be basic skills of any person, any given person. Like any person should be able to draft a simple email or post a social media post. Like even now today, if you take the present context, even a WhatsApp status or a Instagram status or a Facebook status is a way of communicating. You're communicating something to the society, to your community of friends, right? If you put up something about your singing, or you could be doing a speech, or you are posting someone else's speech, that itself is communicating. Okay. Introduction. Like there are main types of communications. Now, I was giving you an example at the very beginning about a clap. That a clap can be a way of communicating, right? Then I was telling you about a telephone call to inform someone about a funeral. That is another way of doing it. Okay. Likewise, there are main types of communication. The main types, the main categories of communication are verbal, non-verbal, written, and visual. So verbal, of course, you know, that is by speaking a language. Non-verbal is by way of body language. Now a clap or a facial expression or a vocalic would be non-verbal. You are not verbally speaking out a language, but you are communicating something through your expressions, body language, or something similar. Then communicating by your written language. In written and verbal, you have a language involved, but the way of doing it is different. Now, verbal is you are speaking, you speak out. In written communication, you communicate through writing. You have to have the literacy to write symbols or numericals. Okay. Then we have visual communication. It's by photography, art, drawing, sketches, charts, and graphs. So if something involves pictures, shapes, colors, sketches, that would be visual communication, right? Okay, now you see the types of communication and how they are categorized, or how they are distinguished from one another. Verbal communication uses a strong, confident speaking voice. You have to have a good voice to talk. And it should involve active listening. The other party should be actively listening, like y'all are giving me the best. You all speak to me, you all ask questions and all that. So there is always an active part of listening. Avoid filler words. There are like ambiguous or unclear words should be avoided. And avoid industry jargon when appropriate, right? So that is something industry related information. Non-verbal, notice how your emotions feel physically. Non-verbal, now we know what non-verbal is. Now that is when you communicate something through your facial expressions or body language. So that has to do something with what you feel physically, the emotions you feel physically, right? Anger, happiness, and everything, like anger, happiness, sadness, sort of things can be seen, can be felt physically. Those are non-verbal communications. And be intentional about non-verbal communication. You could only feel sad if you are intentionally sad. You otherwise you will be acting, right? So it has to be intentional. You have to intend to feel sad and then be sad about it, right? Mimic nonverbal communications you find effective. So sometimes mimic nonverbal communications are more effective than verbal communication, because nonverbal communication, now if some, even if a foreigner or an alien or some person from another country, from another region, from wherever else apart from where you are, if somebody shows you a crying face, you would know, okay, this guy is sad. Or if you show an angry face, irrespective of where you are from, what language you speak, what even if you are deaf, you don't understand a thing about anything, still you would know, okay, this guy is mad, this guy is angry, just stay out of it, right? So non-verbal communication in that sense is more effective because anybody would understand uh, the facial expressions and body language than something said in a different or a particular language, right? Then we have uh, visual communication. Ask others before including visuals. So whenever you are doing uh, a visual demonstration, you should always ask the audience, okay, are we comfortable about having a visual demonstration? Likewise, consider your audience. You should always consider your audience. Uh, then only use visuals if they add value. Like you should not add visuals unless it adds value to what you are saying, what you're doing, right? Make them clear and easy to understand. The visuals should be a helping aid, like a helping guideline to probably something that you are saying in verbal communication, right? Sometimes visual communication alone can't do the trick of communicating. It has to couple up with maybe verbal communication or written communication most of the time, or even sometimes non-verbal. Okay, so it has to add value to whatever is communicated and make them clear and easy to understand. It has to be clear and understandable. Then written communication, it strive for simplicity. Now you can't be writing like lengthy sentences or giving like professional or way too professional language could also kill the moment sometimes. Now there are certain people who talk in like way complicated vocabulary that you would understand nothing by listening to them or by reading their speeches. So that the communication to be effective, it has to be understood and it has to be simple. Don't rely on tone, because written communication cannot really give out a tone. It sometimes can, but not technically or in practical senses. So you should not rely on the tone. Then take time to review your written communication Whenever something is written, this is something that you should always be sure about. Whenever you are writing something, now let's say you're writing a letter. Whenever you're writing a letter, your letter has to be reviewed, because other than something said to an audience or shown to an audience, a written communication is going to last longer. It's going to stay, because whenever you are now, let's say you are writing a letter to me saying that I am bad. Okay, Miss Radha, you are not doing a good job at lecturing communication skills for us in the in this course. You're not doing good at this. You suck. Just go. If you are saying it to my face, that will be faded away in time. But if you write it to me and give, whenever I look at the letter or the email you are sending me, it is going to like refresh the idea about I am not being good at this, and that is going to have more effect on my career, my way of lecturing. It could be in a good way that I could be improving myself, but also it's going to make a long lasting impact on me. So whenever written communications are done, you have to always look at the possibilities of it going wrong and such things, right? Keep a file of writings you find effective and enjoyable. Like sometimes you can collect written communications rather than the other three, because verbal and non-verbal, visual, they are all shown for once and then done. But written communications are going to stay. So you can collect them, you can make them into books, maybe collect like articles. Written communication is going to last longer than the other three, right? Okay, I think we can end from here, because from this slide onwards, it's going to be a little more like up to this lesson, up to this slide, it's more like a general elaboration of what communication has to be. But from here, from slide 12, it's more like it's more like focusing on the career. So I prefer it to be the next next part of the lesson. Maybe probably be done next week.
Like a subtopic, no?
Yeah, that's what. Like this is more like how the communications now. It's more like a connecting subtopic. That's right. Like now, for as far as now, we have spoken about what communication skills are, how they are going to be effective, what types of them are there, and all that. Now we are connecting it to a career. Now, how communication skills can be improving factor of your career. So I think from here we can break the lesson.
So,
Do we?
excuse me, Miss Mel, is
Yeah.
there
Sorry, I think I lost you. Is there a? You were saying something, I lost it.
no, Miss, I didn't say.
Ah, okay. So can we just split our lesson from here? Let's pick up from next week.
Sure, Miss.
Okay, great. You two are good. You two are good. Just ask everyone else to join the lesson next week, okay?
Okay, Miss.
I wish we could just like